Good morning. My name is Rose Traub, and I have an assisted living placement company and a senior resource center, and I facilitate an Alzheimer's support group here in New Smyrna Beach once a month. I'm very pleased and proud to have one of my members here, Brian, who is actually an Alzheimer's patient, who is here to talk about what he's going through and his journey through this whole system of Alzheimer's. Morning, Brian.
Good morning, Rose.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I apologize for last time. We had a little technical difficulty, so I'm just going to video this time and not do it live, and we'll post it later.
So we'll redo the whole.
There you go.
Whole thing.
So how did it go? How's it going?
Good.
Good.
Good. I said before we went on camera or whatever it is that I was surprised after looking at the last video how grumpy I am how grumpy I look. So.
Now smile.
You made a joke and now I'm trying to smile.
That's all.
But anyway, how am I doing? Well, I think it's 2 months since the last time we did one.
Yes.
I have noticed that my symptoms are progressing.
Yeah.
In 2 month period of time, and that is the ongoing process. That you live with and you think about constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and try to adjust to, and adjust to the changes that will come as a result of that fact as best as you can and for as long as you can.
Are you still journaling?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Yes. As a matter of fact, I have been journaling in hand,
Mm-hmm.
in script. And one of the things that is happening to me, I think, is that my handwriting, which has never been good.
He was an attorney. Let's just preference that.
My secretary's had to take courses in reading Brian's handwriting. Is getting worse. And I think that has to do with spatial issues a little bit. But anyway, what I've been doing is I've been taking my notes and typing them. Because what's happening is I'm kind of falling behind, and I really would like to journal more. Mm-hmm. Because I have a thought that I think is pretty significant and interesting, but in 3 days I won't remember it anymore.
But you could always absolutely video or record.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
There are recording that you can do on your laptop that you just speak into and it types for you.
Yeah. And
it's just a download program. Yeah. It's pretty cool to do, but think about it as things progress.
Yeah.
Are you communicating with your doctor on a regular basis up north?
Down here, not really, no. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even up in Indiana because I go to see him every 6 months. Mm-hmm. And if I have a question, he's readily available to me through his staff. But no, not on a regular basis.
I was just curious to know if the doctor would be making regular changes in medication because you feel like your progression is moving so fast. Question.
Well, I'm going to be going to see him pretty soon, right? I mean, we're going to be heading north here in a little while, so.
Just a question.
Yeah. So anyway, what I've thought about for today is I want to talk about what you notice about yourself as you progress through Alzheimer's, and how that impacts on you. And I guess impact is probably the right word. And then how that changes your life and how the interaction between you and your caregiver, who is the person that lives with it as much as you do, how that relationship works and what has to go into that relationship to make sure that it does continue to work, which I think is tremendously important to both people. I mean, one of the things that I have read is that whenever someone has Alzheimer's, there are two patients. Mm-hmm. There's the person who has the disease, and then there's the person who is impacted by it, the primary caregiver, the person with whom you live. And that is definitely true. I mean, you can really see that. So that's kind of like what I'd like to talk about today.
Perfect, I love it.
And the things that happen to you I've said previously, I think, that as I look back on things, I retired at the age of 56. I was very lucky. That's 16 years ago now, 14 years ago, 14, 15 years ago. And, I was kind of like symptom free at that time. But to be very honest with you, I knew at that time that I was having difficulty with managing the huge amount of facts that you have in a law practice. But looking back on it now, I even go back farther than that.
Wow.
To when I would say I first started to have symptoms that it was very easy for me to just push them aside. But looking back now, early diagnosis, early treatment, early intervention with medicines and such is so very important. And there's a tremendous natural instinct to ignore it, to
blow it off.
Blow it off, And I really think that it's very important for people not to do that, because early intervention is so very, very important. But anyway, once you can no longer push it off, and it's just there, and you have to start thinking about it and addressing it. What happens to you is that the loss of memory and the loss of focus is a general term. What happens in the specific is you're not remembering facts. You're not remembering events initially. And as it progresses, you naturally lose the ability to do simple things. Things that you've done all of your life. And, in my thinking about my condition, a lot of what happens to you is scary, and I think what I'm about to say is kind of a scary thing. I came to the realization in thinking about that what it means is we are this wonderful creation of God that has a mind, right? And you take thoughts and you put them together with memories and things that you've read and experiences that you've had, and you come up with a plan. And you do things, and you have the ability to analyze your situation, and you have the ability to decide, well, this is what I want to do with my life, or this is where I want to go, or this is how I'm going to handle this problem. Art, music, philosophy, science, the ability to think about the stars and everything like that. All of that comes about from the ability to think, and daily living.
Yeah.
Is a function of that cognitive ability. And when you start forgetting about facts, and when you start forgetting about memories, and you start to lose the ability to pull things together, you realize, and this is the scary part, I'm losing the essence of being a human being. I'm losing my mind. Now, I'm not losing my mind to paranoia or mental disease or something like that. My mind is just drifting away.
So are you saying it's a sense of self?
It's a sense of self. It's a sense of place. Alzheimer's is like this ghost in your life, but it's a ghost that has no form even. It's just kind of out there.
And you feel it, and you know it's there.
Oh, you know it's there. It's very real. But you can't touch it. You can't. It's not like a sore. I've thought about the difference between Alzheimer's and because you compare. You don't want to feel sorry for yourself. And you want to be realistic about where you're at. And you compare yourself. Well, one of the things that I said was, I don't have Lou Gehrig's disease, that man that our son knows, who didn't have Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
ALS,
Lou Gehrig's. It's similar to those types of things, and Parkinson's disease. It's not similar to a heart attack or a stroke or cancer, in many different ways. They are treatable.
Right.
First of all.
Right.
Right. And not that I would wish it on anyone or on myself, but they're relatively short term in duration.
Right.
The cognitive issues, Alzheimer's, dementia, all of that, Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's disease, there's no real treatment and cure, and it's a long journey and decline into oblivion.
It's true. I was with a family, with a lady with Parkinson's this week, and her mind is so bright and so smart, and she's young 70s, and she wants to be placed in an assisted living that's so active and so full of life, and her body is failing her. And I'm saying to the family, but I really don't feel like the care is going to be there. I'm concerned. And the family says she's got to experience that herself to know. Yesterday she was at Bell's all day long shopping with her caregiver. She is so debilitated. It's horrific. My heart bleeds for her. And you know that at some point she's going to have to give up that love of life and compromise for that love of care. And that's hard. So I don't know what's worse. Is it worse losing your mind or losing your body? But they're both significantly horrible.
Yeah, there's really no
comparison. No.
Yeah, it's like how do you compare sufferings?
Suffering.
It's just not possible.
No.
But anyway, so as you go through that process, and I've said previously, I think that your mind and your psyche knows that this is happening. I mean, I'm talking now about sitting down and thinking about it, but subconsciously your mind knows what's going on, and then all sorts of other things start happening. And what I'm talking about is who you are and your personality changes. You start to deal with not depression, at least not me, I don't think really depression, but sorrow,
loss.
A sense of loss. And you think about, you spend a lot of time thinking about your life, and you want to put it all together and say, well, I did okay, don't have too many regrets. There are a couple of incidents in my life that I wish they had been handled differently by me, but overall, I'm okay with looking back on things.
Part of your journey.
But you also look back on things that happened to you from outside influences that never resolved themselves, and you have to come to peace with all of that. So those are the easy things. Okay, at least in my case, I'm blessed by having had a wonderful wife, wonderful family, wonderful upbringing. I've been a deeply spiritual person all my life, which gives me tremendous strength now. But for me, the difficulty is the sense of loss and the anger and frustration that comes with that. And I think and I hope that I'm doing better with it now than I did in the beginning. But it's always there. It's a battle. And I think that people who are confronting this really have to, at least, given my journey and how things are developing with me, there may be something else for somebody else. But for me, one of the things that I have to be constantly aware of is anger, frustration, agita, edginess is my word for it. Edginess. And you have to train yourself to anticipate it, to know when it's coming on, because if you just let it go, the relationship with your caregiver is going to go to hell.
But there's also got to be a fear, Brian, of the point when you can no longer know it's coming. And I know that's a fear factor for you.
Well, that takes me to a slightly different thing, and that is that I was not planning on going to today, but it's fine, is this business of finding the balance between, okay, I'm gonna get on top of this, I'm gonna hold on to this, I'm gonna work on this, And the balance between when are you beating your head against the wall because it's gonna happen, and let it go and just accept that that part of you is no longer here, or soon is no longer going to be with you, and so therefore don't make another problem. Let it go, as opposed to, well, when do you still say, no, I can still work on this, I can stay on top of this, I can adapt, adaptive behaviors is one of my big things. So that's a constant process. That's difficult, and you think a lot about it. And another thing you balance out is, well, how do I let this damn thing go?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's every day of your life. You don't. It's not like you get a stomach ache, and you get another stomach ache next week. I mean, it's there constantly. And you really have to say, I mean, how do you deal with that? Because if you got to have a life, as long as you can have a life, you got to have a life. So how do you let that go, and how do you find a balance in that?
I don't know that there's an answer, but I see sitting in group with so many people, and the people that are accepting of what's happening to them, and the people that are in denial and always want to blame their caregiver because they're the problem, it's not me. And to have the reality and the realization of, I know what's wrong with me, I know what's coming, to me is a much better journey to be on than the person in denial who blames everything else around them, because they're never going to understand what's happening to them until the point is there's no clarity ever.
My wife and I have always had the ability, I mean, from the times that, from when we were dating, we had, and we thought about our lives together, right? We had the 3 C's, and one of them was communication, compromise,
Consideration.
and consideration, right? And we really built our marriage on that. And communication is so important. I mean, at this point, it's the most important thing for me, for her. Linda probably has to compromise a little bit more than I do. Linda has to be more considerate, I think, than I'm capable of anymore, so those are things that she has to kind of pick up on more than I do now. But, you're different, and you didn't change yourself. It just happened to you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. But it's important that you convey that to the person that you're living with and the person that loves you and you love her, because you're different. So therefore, the relationship has to change. It does.
It does.
Daily life.
It's going to change.
Daily life has to change, and the only way that you're going to be able to put that together, the two of you, is if you're able to have conversations. So I mean, if you're going to be macho man and you're going to be tough guy, I got to tell you, I think you're making a mistake.
I had a conversation with his son yesterday. His dad's in a memory care place, and he's so angry with his dad. And I brought the doctor in, and the doctor just turned around and said to him straight up, "This isn't his fault. He didn't do this to hurt you. He didn't do this intentionally. This is a disease, and it's not his fault." And the son just began to cry, and he goes, "Oh my God, thank you. I never looked at it that way. I've been blaming him all the while." There's no one to blame.
Yeah.
There's no one to blame in this. It's a disease. We don't know why people get it. There's so much that is just left for the unknown about this disease and how each person is different in their journey. And it's one that we have to pray that they keep doing more research and more research, because it's never too late to cure someone. Just like we see with the strides with cancer, we've got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. I mean, things that, and one of the things that Linda and I had to address in terms of she says things that are perfectly appropriate and have been all the time, and things that you said to her all of your life was, "Why'd you do that?" That becomes a flashpoint all of a sudden. Why'd you do that?
because you don't know why you did it. But that's why.
You know.
You don't have an answer
Yeah,
for
I mean,
why.
why did I do that? You know, and it used to be because I'm stupid. But now you can't. Now it's not funny anymore.
Now it's not funny.
Why did I do that? Well, let me tell you. I did that because
I don't know.
I didn't remember.
Yeah.
I didn't remember. You know.
But the reality of the reality is so important, and that's where I think people are missing it. They want to have denial, they want to walk around it, they want to skirt around it. There's still people who are embarrassed by it. This is a disease.
Yeah.
It's not a visible disease. You don't look sick, but you've got to pay attention to each other, and you've got to know that you got to stick together. You got to communicate, and you got to find a way to work through it. And just like we talked about last time, it's okay to say, you know what, Linda, I want more help for you. So together, let's make arrangements to do things. You can always be together. There's never a need to be separated. It's just a matter of making those arrangements early on and making a plan. And you're good at that. You guys are planning for your future. And that's what we strive for every day with everybody. We plan for everything all our life. You didn't plan for this.
No. And you learn as you go along. You know, I mean, Linda and I talk a lot about the stages and the advanced stages. And, you know, I think Linda is a very caring person. I know she's a very caring person. And I think I can anticipate that she's going to want to hold on as long as she possibly can. It's just going to be an expression of love. And she doesn't have to prove anything to me about how much she loves me, right, after 50 years or 48 years or whatever it is. And I said to her initially that, you know, when I'm in La La Land, when I'm blank face and, you know, I don't know anything, I don't even have, there's no sense of self anymore. Put me into a nursing home. You know, just check on me every little while. Well, as you read and as you become more and more aware, I've changed my mind on that. And what I've said to her now is, you know, this concept of there's two patients who are impacted by Alzheimer's disease. You know, when I hope that I'm peaceful as I progress, but when I'm no longer able to feed myself, I'm no longer able to bathe myself, I'm no longer able to toilet myself, I'm no longer able to feed myself, I'm no longer able to, all of these things. And, you know, she's going to have to move me around. That's when I should go into an assisted living or into a nursing home facility. Because you made the point the last time when this didn't go, this didn't work out, this didn't take, that I have to be able to acclimate myself to the new environment that I'm going to be in.
And sometimes people wait too long.
And I really don't want her to overextend. Her life should not be ruined. It's going to be impacted, clearly. It's not going to be happy time. But her life should not be ruined by
your disease.
And that is controllable. By people who are professionally trained, equipped, and everything else that goes along with assisted living.
But that's the direction that you guys are working towards.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not... I had a couple that I went to a service on Sunday for. They died 17 and a half hours apart from each other.
Oh, my God.
And when I first met them, he had Alzheimer's. They were living in a trailer. She had opened the door to the trailer and the wind caught her and it threw her on top of the car. When I walked in to meet her, the first thing she did was grab my arm and say, you got to get us out of here. I can't do this alone anymore. I need help. I placed them within a couple hours in an assisted living. And they ended up at the end of the day, she was in a hospital, he was in a skilled facility because they had both had episodes that they needed care for. And when the daughter called me and said they're both going on hospice, they're both imminently dying, I need your help, they've got to be together. We worked together with the hospice company and brought them back together in the place where they had lived the last year together, with getting care and still being in the same room, in the same holding hands in bed at night. And they died 17 and a half hours apart from each other. And that's how it should be.
It's kind of beautiful.
You know, at 90 years old, they should have been together, and there was a way to make it happen. So it's planning.
Yeah.
And it's knowing what your wishes are and making sure that people understand what they are, because things change. We're going to cut short now because we're almost at 25 minutes, and you know how people won't listen forever. But
So-
when do you guys go back home?
April 5th.
April 5th.
April
Yeah,
5th.
beginning of April.
So maybe we can do this one more time before you go.
Before we go, yeah.
And I want you to, as you go, I want you to keep up with us. We'll
yeah.
FaceTime you
Yeah, okay.
and see how things
Yeah.
are going on a
We'll be
regular
back in
basis.
September then.
Good.
So.
Any words of wisdom?
Good being with you.
Good
Hope
being
it's,
with
hope
you.
it's helpful.
Thank you.
Hope it's helpful.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, right.